And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name is Ray. I'm a bearded man of real estate. And this is This Week in Real Estate. Thanks for joining us. We're broadcasting everywhere. You would have a hard time avoiding the broadcast today. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Kick, Twitch, and we're on Clubhouse. So if you're on Kick, Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, you can actually comment, and I can display that comment, and I can talk about you, or I can just talk about your comment. And if you're joining us over on Instagram, I can give you a shout out. I can't display your comment from Instagram, but I can certainly give you a shout out. We already have some YouTube comments. Matt Lamar says, ha ha ha, USA #1, back on top. Welcome back, Matt. Thanks for joining the show. What's it worth appraisal? Super excited about the appraisal article that we have today, as you can see by his emoji. And then Elizabeth Nightingale's here. Hello from Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, thanks for joining us. Be sure you drop in the comments where you're watching from. And a replay clear, YouTube. And if you're joining us on Clubhouse, you can actually add your voice to the podcast. The audio quality on Clubhouse is a little suspect, but that's where you can add your voice to the podcast and you'll be there in perpetuity. So be careful what you say, especially these days. Be careful what you say. Don't say anything dumb, but you're welcome to join. You can also say something dumb. I'm not going to stop you from it. I'm definitely not going to edit the show, but it will be there forever, just so you know. But thanks everyone for joining. We got a lot of news to cover today. The Fed is going to make an announcement at the end of the show, so that's why I started the show a little bit late today. We're going to try to carry it to that announcement. That way we can cover it live. And then right after that announcement, I'll have to run away. Logan, what's up? Logan HEA says, yo, over on Instagram. What's up, man? Thanks for joining the show. Okay, right off the top, we're going to talk about a sensitive topic. Everybody knows, if you haven't heard by now, I think everyone knows Charlie Kirk passed away. Last week was shot and killed. And this week, it's making news on our show because of what real estate agents are saying about it and how that's impacting their jobs. So interestingly, this first article is about Vegas. So Las Vegas Realtors remove incoming board member following inflammatory Charlie Kirk post. Mark Sivek, Sivek, was due to join the association's board of directors in 2026, but was removed from the appointed position after derogatory remarks. It says in this article he was removed, but it says elsewhere that he resigned. So I don't know. It says an incoming board member for Las Vegas Realtors has been stripped of his appointed positions after taking negative comments on social media about the conservative activist Charlie Kirk in the wake of his assassination. The realtor in question is Mark Sivek, who appears to recently have been affiliated with Realty One, although his profile now appears to have been taken down from the firm's website. Sivek's Facebook page has been deactivated. Screenshots circulating on other pages appeared to show that on Wednesday, following Kirk's assassination, Utah Valley University, Sivek wrote this. Charlie Kirk was a despicable human being, promoted hate and violence, a real POS, live by the sword, die by the sword, F Charlie Kirk. The world is a better place without him. That's what he wrote. According to Sivek's Realtor.com profile, he served in Nevada Realtors Board of Directors and sat on the association's Professional Standards Committee. Let me see. Las Vegas Realtors released a statement. We want to make it clear that LVR and its leaders do not condone hateful or potentially hurtful speech, and that such comments do not reflect the views and values of our association and profession. Such public comments are contrary to LVR policy and the code of ethics all realtors are sworn to uphold. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with you guys. And they will be addressed through the processes in place. So we'll see what happened. Realty One made this announcement. I believe this is the same Realty One group. I'm not totally sure, but it says Realty One Group Green Valley holds its agents to the highest standard of professionalism. Recently, comments made online by an agent in our office did not reflect the values of respect, integrity, and professionalism that we expect. After careful review, careful review, What what kind of careful review did you have to take it? Anyway, after careful review, the leadership has made the decision to part ways with this individual. Step was taken to uphold our commitment to our clients, our community, and to reach and to each of you who represent Realty One Group with honor and class. A lot of people applauding it in the comments. So someone said, so I don't know what that means. But most of the time, people are in the comments cheering. So this is what I want to ask. Is it okay that he was removed from the position for these comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Resounding yes?
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Matt, tell me why it's okay.
So there's been a lot of dialogue over the last week, obviously, around this. And, it's not just real estate, obviously, right? There's been healthcare individuals, there's been teachers, I think we should all be held to a high standard. What you post on Facebook is forever. I don't care if you delete your account. I don't care if you delete the post. If one person sees it, then it has had an impact. And you never know who that one person is either. And so, in my opinion, yes. And this goes both ways. It doesn't matter what political side you're on, in my opinion. I think for years, it's been heavily weighed one way and not the other. But we don't want to get too deep into that, I don't think, today.
No, we won't have. We'll leave some of that debate for the political pundits. Janice Fleming's joining us, by the way, from Ohio Real Estate. She said, good afternoon from Malvern, Ohio. We have a Malvern, Arkansas, Janice. Just south of me. All right. Who else said yes? Andy, was that you?
Yes, it was.
Andy, it's okay that he was let go from his LVR position?
Yeah. I agree with what Matt said
okay.
generally, but here's the thing. We have in this country freedom of speech, okay? But that freedom of speech is with the government, okay, and not tell you what to say, right? If you're a member of an organization or you are employed by an organization or a company, private or public, you don't necessarily have those quote unquote rights of freedom of speech because that is constitutionally what protects us from the government, right? Especially the first 10, but even with that, you are not held. You don't necessarily held without the consequences of your speech, right? There's a freedom of speech. Yes, we generally say what we want to say, but if it's something that's so negative, as in I think this case, that it is so negative that it brings such a bad light, not just to you, but the organization that you're attached to, there are consequences for those things. And in this case, he was either relieved or resigned or probably forced to resign to be away from that organization so that it does not bring a negative light to that organization. Now, if he was also relieved from his brokerage that he was a part of, we're all independent contractors for the most part. And a large majority of us are. And that's how this business works. So you can be let go, you can be asked to leave and let go at will, basically, because you're just an independent contractor. And if you're going to bring a bad light to the brokers that you're with because you say things, on top of the fact that he is under the committee of professional standards. And I find that just quite ironic that he made a blatant statement like that, but he was on the committee for professional standards. And I think as a professional real estate agent and loan officer, that there's no way I'm going to say anything that crazy and sideways. Do you want to have a one-on-one conversation and discuss this over a beverage? Absolutely, we can do that, right? But to put stuff out there in the public on social media, like Matt said, it's forever, right? Somebody's going to screenshot it. Somebody's going to hold it. Somebody's going to hold it in their memory. It's out there. It's forever. It's in the ether. And you can't get rid of that. So as remorseful as he may be now that he said that, too late. You already said it. And you should have thought about it before making a knee-jerk reaction.
So nobody's saying that he can't say it, right?
Exactly.
It's just like every decision everybody makes, there are consequences for that.
That's what Matt Lamar said on Facebook. Consequence of
Yeah.
speech is another great quote.
Yeah. You can't say it and be a part of an organization and represent an organization or represent an employer or represent clients. I wonder if this gentleman had clients that fired him because of that statement.
So can I play a little bit of devil's advocate? The devil
Oh,
indeed,
boy.
perhaps in this case. We've talked about standard and practice 10-5 before. And 10-5 says realtors may not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs against someone of the protected classes. If I look at what he said again, I don't believe it was directed at a protected class. The addition, the amendment to Standard and Practice 10-5 said, in November of 2020, the NAR Board of Directors made changes to Standard Practice 10-5. After extensive research, the Professional Standards Committee recommended changes that effectively broaden the context of the standard. In the past, the Code of Ethics only covered realtors' activities during a real estate transaction. The applicability of the new Standard of Practice 10-5 covers all activities of a realtor, all activities. So any posting. And we've talked about this on our show as being a negative thing because, hey, I'm not doing anything about real estate, but I want to put this funny joke out there and then somebody takes offense to it and suddenly I lose my career. Under the changes made November, it goes on to say, under the changes made November 2020, a realtor can be found guilty of Code of Ethics violation, whether the infraction related to a transaction or other membership-related context. Presently, any potential breach of the article will be looked at individually to see if it's a violation of Article 10 or if it's someone expressing their First Amendment rights. The new wording of Article 10, SP 10-5 became, realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based upon an individual or group that falls under one of the protected classes. And then they give an example of a realtor creating an advertisement using demographics and how they can't do that. So I know in America, you can say whatever you want. I understand that there are consequences of those things that you say. But speaking from NAR, can they kick them out of being a realtor based on what he said? And
did they remove him as a realtor or just remove him off of the board?
They removed him off the board so far. I don't know what, but he was also fired, but they removed him off the board.
Okay, so the one thing, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but part of all of this that's going down is a protected class. Because Charlie Kirk was a Christian.
Oh.
And he put that out there so much. And there's a good part of the people that are putting information out there based off of his beliefs or their understanding of his beliefs, because I think some of them are misunderstood. But it's because of his beliefs. I mean, he said it all the time. He's like, hey, I'll have any discussion with you. But he was a Christian.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the reason he was out there. He wanted to have open dialogue about Christianity and politics. So he is a Christian, and that's religion, and that's protected class.
Yeah. Elizabeth Nightingale says it well. She says, life in the middle lane is a lot easier than worrying about all this negative stuff. Why anybody would jeopardize their public reputation saying such negative things? Is attention that important?
To some, yes, Elizabeth. Good, bad, or otherwise. But Ray, back to your point about NAR. To your point, I don't think they can actually remove. Well, I guess they can do whatever they want. At the end of the day, they'll find a way. My guess. But I highly doubt they're going to remove him as a realtor because of this. Now, Andy makes a great point about Charlie Kirk's, religious belief and being a protected class. But the last comment I made there was protected class or not. it's been proven, I think, 70% of real estate agents, or I think they qualified as realtors. Don't quote me on this. I'll go do my digging on the fact, but I think 70% of people have not done a transaction this year.
That's
So
true.
if we only say that section 15 is during a transaction, well, if you're not engaged in a transaction, if the
Yeah.
70% aren't, then the code of ethics wouldn't be applying. That particular part of the code wouldn't be applying to you at any point in the year so far. But with the amendment, I think it adds in, you are your own company. You are your own media team. And we have talked ad nauseum about this within our company, because people read things and they see things online and they take it one way or another, whether you intended it to be taken that way or not. It just does not matter. And it kind of goes back to Elizabeth's point. If you do live in that middle lane, if you're not going to be outspoken about whatever topic, it's a lot easier to be judged for that, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, the mute button on Clubhouse is ridiculously large now, but does not work.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
sorry
really?
if you see that.
No worries.
And to take it to an extreme is, some things that Charlie said were extreme and would invoke, could be expected to invoke such extreme reaction.
You mean people
It's
saying
not
things?
it's not a pass, but it's the genre of the of the debate.
That's what a debate is. You provoke the discussion, and then you figure out which idea is going to work.
Yeah, but we're not talking about, do you mix tulips with daisies in your garden?
Well,
I mean, there were some,
yeah, but
pretty
still,
bold conversations had.
But that, in my opinion, that's what needs to be had. Elizabeth
Agreed.
Nightingale said,
Agreed.
the problem with extremists is they think they will win. Well, usually, Charlie said it a lot. When discussion ends, when debate ends, when talk ends, that's where the violence begins. And I think, 10-5 scares a lot of real estate agents, because they want to come out and say what they want, but feel like they can't say what they want because they may be considered by someone out there as an extremist or hate speech. If I came out against DEI, could someone say, well, that's hate? Because, this show has a long-standing tradition of, discussing all sides of issues, taking devil's advocate pretty regularly on stuff, especially like this. Like, let's talk about it. Elizabeth Nightingale says mixing tulips with daisies is uncivilized, by the way. So we take all sides of debates, and then we debate them, and we talk about them, and we look at it. Because, if this was a right winger saying something, a conservative saying something, which a lot of real estate agents are conservatives, would we be as upset about it? There's a line that's crossed in a lot of this that, I don't have a problem at all with somebody saying that they didn't agree with Charlie or what he said, and debating some of the issues. The thing I have an issue with, where I think this guy, Mike, what's his name? Sivek or whatever, Sivek, where he crossed the line was by celebrating the death. And that promotes violence. When you celebrate something, you're promoting it. If I celebrated, two people getting married, and promoting like, hey, this is a good thing. If you celebrate someone's death, you're promoting death. And that is rather drastic. Now, there are ways to talk about this that, if you're on the left, you could say, I didn't agree with him, but maybe we shouldn't kill people. I think that's a fair way to talk about it. And I don't have a problem with somebody bringing up some of the stuff he says and trying to debate it. I don't have a problem with that at all. But whenever you call one side a threat to democracy, quote unquote, if there is an actual threat to democracy, then one of the things that makes America so American is that we go to extremes to protect democracy. And so by saying that the America itself is threatened, then it is a call to arms. So there's a lot of rhetoric, calling one side fascist, calling one side Nazis, calling the other side, the whole Antifa crowd. it just needs to chill. I mean, I think Charlie exemplified this, and that he would talk to people and he would debate them, and he would ask, if you disagree, come to the front. And he would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I think that's exactly what we should do. And you may not agree with his stance about DEI. You may not agree with his stance about, I don't know, guns or whatever. But it's open to debate, and he would encourage the disagreement. He would encourage the debate. There was a young girl who was at one of his rallies that talked about their mom being one way and their dad being the other. I think the mom was a right winger and the dad was a left winger. And the question she had was, what do I do? And his answer was, honor your father and your mother. His answer was, don't talk directly about politics. This apparently was a Christian family. He said, don't talk directly about politics. Talk about stuff you can agree on. So talk about Christianity, talk about the faith. And when they bring up politics, say, hey, well, let's just look what scripture says in this context. And he always tried to find common ground. One of the things, if you go back and actually watch some of his debates, it's really interesting. He really tries to find common ground with the person that's disagreeing with him. And he'll ask several questions, and he'll say, oh, okay, on this point, we agree. And then he'll tell them, like, now on this point, we disagree, and here's why we disagree. And it was fascinating. He talked to a socialist, and he found a point that he agreed with the socialists on. And then he said, now here's why we disagree. He said, I believe that man is born sinful and that we're fallible. And so I don't have the socialist utopian belief, because I think there needs to be lots of protections there. The socialist, on the other hand, believes that man, for all intents and purposes, is pretty good. And so that allows them to give more control over in a government situation than someone that has. And so he would go to the core of those disbeliefs and explain it. And he thanked the socialist guy for sharing. I mean, it was just like the most cordial, sane conversation. And I think that's probably the best way to handle all of this stuff. And there are realtors that are being let go because they're celebrating death of somebody. And I don't really care if it's left or right. That's not right. That's not good. And I don't think there's any place for that. Even if it's not a protected class. And this is why I'm like, can NAR get rid of somebody with 10.5 on this? And I think you might be right, Andy, who said you could say it's religious persecution. And that is a protected class, but there needs to be some way to get that stuff out of society completely, because there's no place for it. And America is great because you can say what you want, but it's also great because you can be given consequences for what you say. And you guys know, for me, I mean, I even want racists to speak up. Like, if you're an extreme racist, I want to know. I want you to say all that stuff on your Facebook page, so I'm not going to use you. I'm not going to do business with you. I'm not going to refer my clients to you. So I don't believe in the stifling of speech. I want you to say everything that you're going to say. But I can also say that's not appropriate. And I can say that's not the way to talk about these things. Nick Tiger Quay,
And
what's up, buddy?
I'll add my same footnote that I did before. We're not talking about freedom of speech. We're talking about what you may be allowed to say if you want to be part of a group.
Yeah. Well, and that's, that's just like a company. A company can hire and fire who they want. If you hire somebody and based on what they say, they don't seem to hold your values, then you can get rid of them. And that's your right. I totally believe in that.
For a kid whose dad landed in Normandy and fought for a lot of the freedoms that we have today, and before that is that's an important asterisk on it all.
Yeah.
And we're lucky to have that freedom.
Yeah. Nick Tiger Quay, what's up, buddy? He said, Charlie's an awesome example of what we're able to do with free speech. It's free, not just to speak in private, but also to speak in public. If we can't dive into the depths of our feelings and beliefs, is it really freedom? There is a fine line, for sure, as mentioned. Like him or not, he's a great example of what we can all do with what we believe. Yeah. Elizabeth said, common ground is civilized. We could all do a better job of understanding others. Fighting sucks. Yeah. So one of the Go ahead, Andy.
There's still nothing stopping you from saying what you want to say.
Yeah, there is nothing stopping you. I mean, you could get arrested if you incite violence. That's the thing. And some of the people that are celebrating death and then saying, more should come. When you take that next step and you say we should do it more, there's already some streamers that are getting in trouble because they're saying, you should see the conservatives' blood in the streets type of thing. I mean, that is inciting violence, and there's no place for that's shouting fire in a crowded theater. And I think that does cross a line. The other thing that I'm noticing, though, that I want all of you to be careful about, if you disagree with Charlie, if you agreed with Charlie, I want you to look at everything in context, because one of the things that our show has always done is call the media out whenever they are just putting headlines out there or just putting quote unquote facts out there that don't really align with what's reality. And we deal with it in housing all the time. We deal with it in politics. And in this case specifically, I'm going to give you one example. There is a video circulating where Charlie obviously is on stage and he gets mad and he shouts something and uses the word chank. And a lot of people are saying, oh, he's against Asians. No, he's not. He was debating a guy. The guy said something repulsive out of turn, and Charlie said his name. The guy's name is Chank. And so this has been promoted and circulated in the mainstream media as Charlie having this hateful rhetoric towards a minority group. And it's just patently false. And so I would encourage you, there's other ones like that, like where he says something about a pilot that's African-American or black or whatever. Whenever you look at the whole thing in context, you understand the full reason he's saying what he's saying. He's like giving you example of, how this makes me feel because of this policy put in place. It shouldn't be there. And it's just a more reasoned approach in all of it, just to look at everything in context. So it's really stunning to me how many people are coming out and saying he's full of hate and everything. I've watched a lot of his content. I just never even saw that because I understood the full context of what he was saying. So definitely do not take what the media is feeding you, because in an instance, especially like this, it's pretty sad that they're obviously cutting things and editing things to pit us all against each other. And so just be smarter about that. I mean, I think this is a smarter audience anyway, but for those of you, maybe this is your first time catching the show, you got to look deeper than just the headlines. And I'm not going to go into everything that Charlie said because our show is about real estate. So I'm only going to cover it as far as it extends to people in real estate getting fired. But you got to be smarter. You got to look into the details. You can't just look at what the media is telling you, and you have to go a little bit deeper. So, all right, let's move on. We have an appraisal bias suit, and it got the green light. SCAP is excited about this. The appraisal bias suit against Rocket Mortgage Solidifi moves forward. So a Denver woman who claims an appraisal undervalued her home because she was black can have her day in court, and the lender and appraisal management company that hired him must defend themselves against allegations that they violated the Fair Housing Act. Interesting that the appraisal management company is being brought into this. The Department of Justice sued appraiser Max. I can't even say his name. Kahalia and his company Maverick Appraisal Group in October, alleging that he used faulty comparables and made other inaccurate assumptions in his valuation of a duplex. Let's see, in the 2021 appraised value duplex at $640,000 to that's $220,000 less than it had been appraised for the year before. Let's see, Rocket Mortgage didn't hire them directly in order to comply with the rules. They used the third-party appraisal service, Solidifi. Rocket Solidifi maintained that they were legally barred from interfering with the appraisal. In rejecting motions by Rocket Mortgage and Solidifi to be dismissed from the case, U.S. District Judge Gordon Gallagher said that the state and federal appraisal independent requirements do not preclude lenders and appraisal management companies from taking action to remedy a biased appraisal. Isn't that interesting? So basically, they're saying that, hey, you guys could have got a new appraisal. You guys could have done something different, but you decided not to. Therefore, you are now complicit. The government and Cheroots, that's the lady, I guess, each assert that Rocket could have taken several different actions to avoid reliance on the alleged discriminatory appraisal. Among these, both allege that Rocket could have questioned, could have requested correction or requested a separate appraisal. All right, Scap, what is your take on this issue? Where are you?
Oh boy.
Oh, there you are. What's up, buddy?
Well, I mean, the reason why I brought this up to you, because we've seen a lot of these bias suits over the last couple of years. Many of them have been dismissed by judges all over the place. But what was interesting is in every one of those, it was typically just the appraiser that was being, sued or being looked at. The appraisal management companies and the lenders typically got off, and never had to do anything. Some lenders, there was one case in, I believe it was Baltimore, where the lender actually settled really quickly and just paid off the person pretty quickly to get their name out of everything, while the appraiser was left to fend for himself and actually spent hundreds of thousands of dollars defending himself and then finally having it thrown out. But what's interesting with this one is now the judge in this case is basically saying, look, y'all are involved in this. You can't hide behind the appraiser, just the appraiser now. You all have a role in this, and you now need to defend yourself. You need to show up for this. And I think that's where, the AMCs make appraisers sign these indemnification and all these things when they sign up. And now it's kind of throwing that out the door, and basically, now having AMCs and lenders to stand up for what these cases are. Now, this case in particular, the appraiser, he was actually an appraiser in New Jersey, moved out to Colorado, and then got his license pretty quickly there. And then this was like one of his first appraisals that he did. So he's really an incompetent appraiser. But regardless, what this really means is, and this could be something that, I think agents should look at now too, because even though this was an appraisal issue and, you got the lender involved and Solidifi involved in this, I mean, you kind of can see that, hey, people are opening their eyes and now making people stand up to defend themselves, which agents, somebody goes to sue somebody, now maybe you're involved in it. Maybe they're going to start suing everybody. And, there may be laws out there. Maybe there's things where, it hasn't been, that the agents were able to, hey, we're not a part of this, whatever. Now you're going to be brought into it, possibly. There is that possibility now. So that's kind of where I'm, with this case, I'm kind of glad to see, I'm not glad that the case is out there. I'm not glad that, or happy about, seeing more appraisal bias suits out there. That's not what I want to see. But I am happy in a way to see that the judge is actually saying, hey, AMC, you're acting as the agent for the lender, because the lender made the excuse, oh, well, we can't talk to the appraiser because law says lenders can't talk to them. But yet you have an acting agent in the AMC that's acting on your behalf.
Yeah.
And you're communicating with that AMC. Why aren't you communicating with that AMC and having that AMC communicate to the appraiser, properly? And now that's just one of the other laws we're seeing that kind of screws all up. The chain of command of lender to AMC to appraiser and vice versa.
Well,
and Rocket was actually pretty, right in the fact that they said, hey, you put the laws in there that we can't talk to them, So,
yeah, they can't talk to them, but at the same time, I like that the judge is holding them accountable to what they can do. So the judge is not holding them accountable to what the appraiser did. He's holding them accountable to what they could have done to remedy it and chose not to, which I think is a really interesting take.
Yeah, and because most of the time it's just in all these cases it's just been the appraiser, and the AMC has gone out there and says, hey, look, we have no part of this. That's an independent appraiser. He's on his own. Yeah, we contracted him, but he's on his own. Now they're holding them accountable for what the things that they could have done in place of this, which is interesting. I want to see how this is going to play out with that AMC and the lender.
Yeah, Rocket. So Rocket sued the Department of Housing and Urban Development in December, saying its regulations have created a tightrope that's impossible to walk. At the time, Rocket said that Sherot's had a path to challenge the appraisal through a value reconsideration process, which complies with the law. The borrower declined to engage in that, which is interesting, on 2 separate occasions. I wonder if it's because they would have been charged for it.
And that's the thing. We don't know. I mean, she declined it, but we don't know the reasons they were declined. Nobody's giving a reason. Yeah.
Donna, I see that you came up here in Clubhouse. Are you an appraiser? I think I saw it in your notes.
Yeah, Donna Halfpenny is an appraiser out of Chicago. Yep, she's in my group. She's very well known throughout the appraiser community.
Hey, Donna. Did you want to say something? Did you want to add some context to? I don't know if you could talk or not, but you raised your hand. I just wanted to be sure to come to you in case. You got to unmute if you want to. Okay.
It's the giant button down on the right-hand corner that doesn't work.
See your cat, though. Oh, there.
Okay, finally it worked.
Yay.
Hi. I just wanted to remind everybody of one important fact. AMCs and lenders have duties to ensure that they are hiring competent, knowledgeable, and geographically competent appraisers.
Ooh.
So that is one of the things that is often overlooked because lenders and AMCs are not doing what is required of them by state and federal law. So they have a duty to ensure that the appraiser that they hired was knowledgeable and competent when this appraiser clearly was not.
Maybe that's something.
So they do need to be held responsible.
Maybe that's something also for real estate agents to remember as you have a listing that's being appraised and you're like, oh, okay, you can open the lockbox. I'll see you later. Thanks. Instead of doing that, maybe meeting them out there and having a conversation and seeing how competent they are in your area. And if they're not, I mean, you got an issue to take up immediately if that appraisal misses.
Right. But an appraiser has a duty to not accept the assignment if they are not competent. But another thing that every single agent should be doing is not only just meeting the appraiser, providing them their appraisal packet, give them the survey, give them their CMA. What did they use to price the property? A lot of times, the appraiser can put that information in the report and it proves that either the agent knew what they were doing or they did not know what they were doing.
Yeah.
And agents are also being named in lawsuits where buyers overpaid during the last several years. And a lot of times it comes down to the buyer's agent didn't do their job and give them the information about what the market was doing and what an appropriate price for that property would have been. So we all need to do our due diligence and protect the consumers.
Yeah, I love the appraisal packet idea. That's traditionally I email it, but man, just to give it to them and meet them out at the house, see how they're doing, that just gives an extra
Emailing it is great, but do it beforehand. Don't come back to us.
Don't do it after the appraisal.
Right? Yeah.
After the appraisal misses. Oh, okay.
And a lot of times, if we have that appraisal packet, we can address it in the appraisal, and a lot of times that can help, or it can help us explain and see what the agent was thinking compared to what the listing price was. And that ends up saving everybody time and cuts down in reconsideration of value.
True. Teresa over on Facebook says, I think it should be a requirement for the listing agent to present the appraisal inspection. We just call it the appraisal here. We have a different inspection. But yes, I know what you're saying. Jessica, my team members here wanting bonus points for tuning in.
So what do you do with the appraiser that refuses to communicate with the agents, doesn't want any of the information that you're trying to provide them? You can hand it to them and they just leave it there. Like, I don't need your information. Don't tell me how to do my job, because I've ran into plenty of those.
That should be a red flag. Any appraiser.
It usually is.
Any appraiser should be willing to take any information you give them, provided it's not, this needs to, this property needs to appraise at this amount, or, something they shouldn't be doing. Any
But they-
Here's
appraiser-
$1,000 to make
They
this
get
thing
a
appraised.
Right. Yeah, don't be doing things like that. But data is data. We can take it all. We need information from you. We need the surveys, the condo docs. Give us your CMA. Give us the listings you use to price it. Even
So
from
all-
buyer's agents, you can send us the information to support your contract price. And honestly,
You know that-
I think that should be mandatory. With every single purchase contract, there should be an appraisal packet from the agent. It should be mandatory.
I don't want to get too far into like continuing ed and best practices and stuff, but I think this is really great. This is super helpful. So yeah, we're gonna start creating. You know what? I think people don't do that, Donna. I think the reality is most real estate agents are fearful of providing their comparative market analysis because it's inaccurate, and they know it's inaccurate, and they barely did one. They just pulled average comps in the area for like 10 houses, price per foot. Yeah, here, stick it on there and let's go. And that's not going to do anything.
I'm a broker as well. So yes, I completely understand that. One of the most recent ones, and I'm sorry to say this, but this listing agent was skewered in the appraisal because it was a second floor. It was a second floor apartment style condominium. And in his CMA, some of the sales and some of the listings and expired were detached single family homes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep.
And then, they had nothing to come back at me with and say, well, why didn't this, come in at the contract price?
Elizabeth Nightingale said agents are afraid of being discovered as a fraud. I think you just proved it, Donna. So that's, well, thanks for popping in. I'm going to go on. We got several news articles to cover now, more so about the economy. We got a little bit of Opendoor news too. But this one's interesting. Trump wins one battle, loses another as the Fed policymakers kick off 2-day rate setting meeting. So this was September 16th. So we'll have the fruition of that today, hopefully. Trump appointee Stephen Murin confirmed as Fed governor in 48-47 Senate vote, but appeals court upholds a ruling that Lisa Cook can stay on board while she contests the legality of her removal. That's really all that is. I'm not going to go into the article more because that little summary just hit it. So we'll see what happens. I want to mention that because it does have an impact on the results of today's meeting. Saving the American Dream Act. It's a new path forward for housing policy. This is a bipartisan bill that would tear down the barriers between the Fed agencies to allow collaboration in departments of policies and programs that advance housing and ownership. So in a significant move to address the growing affordability crisis, bipartisan group of lawmakers has introduced, this is the name of it, Saving the American Dream Act, legislation designed to enhance federal coordination on housing data and policy. The bill introduced by the co-chairs of the bipartisan, I'm not going to go into who introduced it. It responds to a longstanding challenge in the housing sector, the lack of comprehensive unified federal data and the interagency collaboration. By requiring key federal agencies, including the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Treasury, to coordinate and share housing market data and research, the bill aims to establish a stronger foundation for developing responsive and impactful housing programs. This is, Matt Lover said, super creative. I know the name, right? This is just crazy to me. I feel like they should have been doing this forever. Apparently, this bill emphasizes breaking down silos between agencies, a goal that NAR and other housing advocates have long advocated for. So we're grateful for Representative. I'm not going to read the quotes. Everybody's just doing their politician thing. While the bill is in its early stages, its introduction has generated optimism across the housing industry. NAR economist, housing promotes a private sector. Leaders are watching it closely. So, all right, we'll see what happens to it. You could go and read it in its current form. If you go to the article on nar.realtor, they have a link to it, the PDF, and you can check it out. So go check it out, and then we'll see how much it's changed once it actually gets passed. Opendoor says 1,200 of its 1,400 employees aren't needed. What? Okay. Forget subtle restructuring. Opendoor's co-founder and newly reinstated board chair Keith Rabios says that the company needs to cut 85% of its workforce. So I guess you're going to have a lot of Opendoor folks filling out some apps. Maybe they can go work at Redfin Rocket. Robios didn't mince words in a CNBC interview. There's 1,400 employees at Opendoor. I don't know what most of them do. We don't need more than 200 of them. Wow. Beyond, I see what you said there, Matt. I'm not going to display that. I'll display this one, though. He said, sounds like our government. Oh, thanks, Donna, over on Facebook, putting that article in there. I appreciate that. Okay, leadership shakeup. The cuts are only part of the story. Opendoor named Kaz Najatian, a former Shopify executive, as the new CEO after pressure forced Carrie Wheeler out last month. Remember, we talked about this. The guy that was the investor that kind of made their stock go up crazy was like, oh, we shouldn't keep Carrie in there. And he got Carrie removed. First thing Monday morning, and every Monday morning, he'd be back in the office. Leadership reshuffle comes as the company continues to burn cash. Stock fueled by retail hype. Other than it goes into the stock stuff. So there you go. All right. We'll see what happens to Opendoor. Zillow, a new Zillow showcase tool lets buyers restyle rooms with AI. If this is the room restyle, it's pretty good, to be honest. This is not bad. So there's somebody basically changing furniture out in a room, emptying furniture in a room. So for years, staging has been one of the most effective ways to help buyers picture themselves in a home. While some buyers prefer an empty slate, others prefer seeing it a home's potential. Now that process will be easier for buyers using Zillow. This week, Zillow announced the launch of virtual staging, an AI-powered feature built directly into Zillow Showcase, its premium listing service. The feature gives buyers an on-demand way to view staged rooms and gives agents using Showcase a tool to highlight the home's potential. So how it works: home shoppers browsing Showcase listings now have virtual staging icon to select featured room photos. Interesting. By tapping the icon, they could choose from a curated set of styles, including modern, Scandinavian, industrial, mid-century, luxury, coastal, and farmhouse. Julie Moon says our MLS is doing this too. Really? Interesting. I haven't seen. Oh, who's your MLS? Shout them out. That's interesting. And here's an example. I mean, that example is pretty good. That's not bad. It really does here's the no furniture. Here's the furniture versions, and it really does let people see what the home looks like. Hive MLS. Go Hive. That's great. One home or Hive? Are you saying that? What? Are you saying it only allows you to do it on one home? I assume one home is a company.
Yeah, that's the platform. And
Got
then the name of the MLS is Hive MLS.
Got it. Okay. Donna says, ensure you disclose in the MLS if the photos are altered or staged. Most MLSs will find you if you do not. I don't think ours cares, as long as it's not like changing the structure or paint or something like that. If you're just putting fake furniture in there, it doesn't really care. But we also will upload the empty version of the house as well. So we'll put photos in that look real, and then we'll put the empty version after those. So like the first, 10, 15 maybe staged, but then after that, you see all the same photos that are empty. I think that's one way to do it too. But yeah, put it, especially in the agent remarks. It's probably a good practice. Data from Zillow shows that agents use Showcase on the majority of their listings. What? Oh, data from Zillow shows that agents using Showcase on the majority of their listings win 30% more listings than non-Showcase agents, or sell Showcase listings 7,000 more on average. Okay, this is a bastardization of data. That's not what the data shows. The data shows that agents who are paying more for Zillow traditionally have a better win rate because they can afford to pay more for Zillow. So usually an agent that's more successful, more accomplished is going to be paying additional money to Zillow. So they have a 30%, they win 30% more listings. It's not because of anything Showcase is doing. It's because the agent that can afford to pay for Showcase listings is usually better. Sell Showcase listings at $7,000 more. No, that's because, and I'm surprised it's not more. I mean, I'm shocked that it's not like $100,000 more, because why would you use a Showcase on a $50,000 to $100,000 property? You're not going to do it. You're going to use it on your nicer listings. So the fact that this number is not higher shows me that there's an issue. So yeah, let's be real. This is what I mean about going. I mean, you got to see past this stuff. Zillow's home trends experts Amanda Pendleton underscored the importance of helping buyers look beyond the photos. Okay, we all know that stuff. All right, we're going to go to the next article. There's your Zillow update. Let's see. Julie Moon says homes.com virtual 360 can remove all the furniture. I think Matterport is owned by them now. So I think they're Matterport based, which I think Matterport can do that too. They have a little button that says, do you want to allow people to remove the furniture? You can say yes or no. Mortgage rates. They dropped to a 3-year low ahead of the Fed meeting. This is what we've been talking about. This change has already been priced into the Fed meeting. So do not be surprised today if the rates go up. He's going to drop the rates, but actually mortgage rates go up. Don't be surprised. The average 30-year fixed mortgage dropped 12 basis points from Monday, 6.13%. That's such a huge drop. Overall setup is reminiscent of September 2024, when rates were doing the same thing for the same reason ahead of the Fed meeting, with a virtual 100% chance of the rate cut, said Matthew Graham, Chief Operating Officer of Mortgage News Daily. Back then, mortgage rates moved paradoxically higher after the Fed rate cut. Look at Ray. Ray, I mean, I knew this. Same thing could happen this time. If you go back to 1980 and the 9 Fed rate cut periods over that 45-year period, the ones where the Fed cuts in necessary environment ended up pulling down the long end of the curve, pulled down the 10-year, pulled down the 5-year. In those that were not a recession, which is likely right now, it does not impact long-term rates. So we will see. I think it's already priced in. We're already good to go. Matt Lamarche says, how about them dogs? Yeah, that was interesting, huh?
What a game.
Tennessee and Rocky flop. That was such a game. I was depressed about our own shortcomings. But yeah.
It made what was a very dark week very bright. At the end of it, that's for sure.
You know what's harder than being a Razorback fan? Being a Razorback and a Bears fan. All right, mortgage refinance demand spikes nearly 60%. Yeah, I mean, Gators got it rough right now. That's true. At least we're losing to somebody. All right, mortgage refinance demand spikes nearly 60% as interest rates drop sharply. All right, this just talks about what we talked about. Refinance apps are up. Potential home buyers were not quite as invigorated by the drops. Home purchase apps were only 3% higher, given the news. Lower mortgage rate trim hundreds off the monthly payments, yet home buyers are still cautious. Honestly, I think it's just publicity. I think a lot of people are out there just waiting on the Fed. I had several buyers say that, hey, the rates are going to go down next week, right? And I'm like, no, they're already priced in now. They're like, you could buy now for a same, if not better rate than when the Fed drops. So it's just a lack of knowledge. As soon as the Fed, quote unquote, drops rates, people are going to jump in. Wages are growing faster than rents and mortgage payments. This is interesting. This is real interesting. Wages are up 4.1% year over year, while asking rents are up 2.6% and mortgage payment growth has slowed to roughly 0. So wages are growing faster than housing cost. This is how you solve affordability issues.
I was going to say not in Canada, Ray.
Are y'all not, is your income not growing up there?
Bro, GDP wages are brutal right now here.
Ouch. I should get rid of some tariffs. Just kidding. What is the
say does
just move. What is the main cause of the incomes in Canada not going up to match the increase in mortgage?
Well, I think we printed 40% more money that existed in our money supply 2020 to 2022, and we're had to do a lot more with a lot less. The jobs don't exist, and yeah, I think we're paying for it now, right?
Yeah. Donna Halfpenny says, I call BS on that. Texas insurance increases are skyrocketing mortgage payments in many areas. Okay, so insurance rates are skyrocketing, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about mortgage payments. So mortgage payments have pretty much flatlined, it seems. But and incomes have gone up. But yes, you're probably right. The insurance cost is probably eating up that extra wage, which goes back to this article that says lower mortgage rates trim hundreds off monthly payments, yet home buyers are still cautious. Could be a very good reason why people have not jumped in yet, even though they are getting paid more. Somebody asked me why. I got a message with this article, and they said, why? What's going on? I mean, for me, the obvious answer is in part a Trump economy is a little better. If y'all remember the first year or so, year or two, 3 of that administration, it was pretty good and incomes were going up. So that's what we see again. I also think I'm not going to debate immigration, but just statistically, if there's a really high percentage of people that are illegal in the country and they're taking a lower wage for a similar job, and a lot of them move elsewhere or leave the country or, in fear of getting deported, they're self-deporting, which thousands and thousands are. That same person that previously hired the illegal at a lower rate is going to have to pay a fair wage for the American citizen. You can't pay them under the table as easily. So I would presume you'd see an increase in wages. That's just that makes sense. You'd have an increase in wages. The other part of that is that there could be a gap between supply and demand of some people. And so you're going to see, with the lack of laborers, you're going to see more people pay more to get more laborers in. So it's just, it is what it is. We've talked about it before when, you could call it good or bad. I don't really care what you call it. It's just a numbers issue. But when tons more women enter the workforce, now you have more people that are willing to work. And so everyone's wages kind of stagnated, and it didn't go up at the same rate as it used to because you had less people that could work or would work. So whenever you have an increase in supply, right, and the demand is about the same, then you're paying less for whatever good that is, whether it's someone to work or it's a widget. It's the same thing. All right, let's keep going. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens, Donna. Considering buying a home in College Town, here's the key housing market data for the biggest U.S. academic hubs. So brass tacks, it's most expensive in beach college towns. I read this whole thing, and that's what it said. So beach college towns are really the ones that are just boom. Homes are more expensive, selling at a premium. Listings are rising the fastest, though, in Bloomington, Indiana, Blacksburg, Virginia, and Urbana, Illinois. Where homes are selling the fastest, Blacksburg, Virginia, Manhattan, Kansas, and West Lafayette, Indiana. So interesting. But go look at that data on Redfin. We've already done the wages are growing faster. Housing starts remain soft ahead of the Fed meeting. So we knew this. The housing starts are slowing right now. Overall housing starts decreased 8.5%. A lot of builders are still wanting red tape to be cut. Sweetening the deal, the builders are offering valuable promotions on new home purchases. We're also seeing this. So now is not a bad time to go into that new home and get all of your closing costs and the fence and the refrigerator and everything else. So let's see. Head on build.com, builder confidence steady, but future sales expectations hit 6-month high. And that is based strictly around the Fed. They think the Fed is going to cut. If the Fed cuts rates, they're going to feel good. And their anticipation of the future market is high, even though that all that's been priced into the market right now. When will be the best time to buy a home in 2025? Hint, it's coming soon. So this is a cool article. If I was a real estate agent, which I am, I would totally green screen this article and talk about the week of October 12th to the 18th and its surrounding weeks. Apparently, It's the time to offer buyers the prime time to make an offer on a home. It's a new study from Realtor.com finds that these weeks offer a rare trifecta: more listings, lower prices, less competition. And is a quadfecta a thing? The fourth one in this year might be a lower rate. So lower prices, less competition, lower rates, and more listings. It's a quadfecta. I don't know. Australia debuts the first 3D printed home built in just 5 months. It's a multi-story 3D printed home. We've been following 3D printing for a long time and just wanted to show you this. It's 22% cost savings on structural walls, 3 times the strength of brick, and it's faster delivery with the entire project taking 5 months. So that's what it looks like. And then it goes into how 3D printing works, but there's some photos of it. So a multi-story 3D printed home. Hopefully we'll get some alternative things like that here. Okay. You ready? Breaking news. This week in real estate. That's right. We have breaking news. The Fed approves a 1/4 point interest rate cut and sees 2 more coming this year. Washington. The Federal Reserve on Wednesday approved a widely anticipated rate cut that signaled 2 more on the way before the end of the year, as concerns intensified over the U.S. labor market. In a 11-1 vote that signaled less dissent than Wall Street had anticipated, the Federal Open Market Committee lowered its benchmark overnight lending rate by a 1/4 percentage point. The decision puts overnight funds rate in a range between 4 and 4.25. The newly installed governor, Stephen Miran, which we just talked about earlier on the show, was the only one of those voting against the 1/4 point move, instead advocating for a 1/2 point cut. Some of you are like, wait, that's Trump guy. Why would he vote against a 1/4 point move? Because he wants a 1/2 cut. It was a 1/2 point cut. That's why. So let's see. And then it talks about the different Fed governors there. In the post-meeting statement, the committee again characterized the economic activity as having moderated, but added language saying that job gains have slowed and noting that inflation has moved up and remains somewhat elevated. Lower job growth and higher inflation put the Fed's twin goals of stable prices and full employment in conflict. Uncertainty about the economic outlook remains elevated, the statement said. The committee is attentive to the risk on both sides of its dual mandate and judges that downside risk to employment have risen. So there we are, y'all. The Fed cut rates, and the only one to vote against it wanted more. It is interesting that instead of just doing 2 now, they're forecasting. They're saying we're going to do 1 now and 2 later. That, in my opinion, would lend itself to the rate staying down instead of an immediate uptick after the lowering of the rate. You might see something like in the next couple of days, but I would presume that rates would stay down on the promise that there are 2 more rate cuts by the end of the year, because that's not a lot of time. So that means the 2 next meetings would both have rate cuts, generally probably a 1/4 point and a 1/4 point. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think we're going to see like a 1.5 point cut or something by the end of the year. I think it's probably going to be a 1/4 point. So there you go. Rates are cut. So thanks everybody for joining. That's all I got for today. And I appreciate the discussion earlier in the show. And it was a sensitive topic. So thank you guys for sticking around for that. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So drop in the comments where you're from. Also, let me know what you thought. And we also, as always, we have all the timestamps and everything down at the bottom too. Usually about an hour or so after the show. So thanks everyone for listening, and especially those who are downloading the podcast. If you made it this far, maybe you're still cleaning the house, mowing the lawn, driving to an appointment, I just want you to know I appreciate you for listening. It means a ton to me. And when I saw you at Tom Ferry and you came up to me and told me, I really appreciate that. So thanks everyone. I will see y'all next week.